welcome everyone. Good morning from where I am. Good afternoon. I see we have folks joining us who are in their afternoons, and good evening for those of you who may be in your evening. Hi, I'm Kate Brower. I'm our Global Inclusion and Diversity Officer here at Dentons, and we are thrilled to have you here with us today for our program in conversation with Dara Redler. As we get underway, just a couple of housekeeping items. First, to enhance accessibility for all our attendees, it is our standard practice to enable the live transcription function on all of our electronic meetings. If you're not familiar with the transcription function in Zoom, today's platform, you can display or hide subtitles or transcription using the CC button on the menu at the bottom of your screen. If you can't see the CC button, click on the three dots for more, and you will find it there. You can then enable or disable the function in your personal feed. Please note, the transcription uses AI technology, and it is not always perfect. So please bear with us if there are any inaccuracies along the way, and feel free to laugh out loud if you see any, because sometimes they can be quite funny. Again, thanks to everyone today for participating in the session. You will already have seen some encouragement from us to let us know where you're joining us from this morning in the chat. Please go ahead and do that if you haven't had a chance to do that yet. And we do encourage you, if you're willing, to turn on your videos so we can have a more intimate and engaged conversation today. Without further ado, I would let's get into it. So thank you for joining our WOW Women of the World legal session as part of our client experience program here at Dentons. A little bit of background to WOW. We launched our WOW program in earnest in July of 2020 after we had some smaller sessions with a dedicated group of senior in-house women who first met in person in London and wanted a forum where they could come on a regular basis together to share career experiences, strategies, and tips through a connected community. Since then, we've had 9 global webinars featuring incredible speakers from all over the world, across industries and sectors, and touching on a variety of topics of interest. Thousands have since joined the sessions, and we are very proudly gender inclusive. Aligned with the theme of the day in 2022 around change, slightly changing things up with this session and going forward to have more intimate and in-depth one-on-one conversations with high-profile leading in-house women. I am delighted to welcome today's guest, who will be kicking off our next chapter of WOW with our In Conversation sessions. And our guest is Dara Redler. I can't see her on my screen right now, but hopefully she's waving enthusiastically to our audience.
I'm here, Kate.
Terrific. Great. Thank you, Dara. Now that you've spoken out loud, you're right front and center for me and also for our audience. So thank you for joining us. We are going to get into some details of Dara's fascinating career story as we dive into the conversation today, but I'm going to start off with some highlights. So Dara Redler is currently the Chief Legal Officer at H&R Block, that tax company, for those of you who have not heard of it before. Prior to joining H&R Block in January of this year, she was General Counsel and Corporate Secretary for Tilray. Tilray is a global cannabis company. At Tilray, she built a global legal function, developed a worldwide compliance program, led legal negotiations for transformative merger transactions to create one of the world's largest cannabis businesses by revenue. Prior to Tilray, she held various legal roles of increasing responsibility. Over 17 years, a long career at the Coca-Cola Company. And prior to that, there was even more. Dara holds a JD from the Duke University of Law and 2 bachelor's degrees from the University of Pennsylvania, 1 in marketing from the Wharton School and 1 in global studies from the College of Arts and Sciences. So quite a career history. So again, one note of additional housekeeping before we get into the discussion with Dara. Please put in any questions you might have for Dara into our chat. In real time, we're going to try to get to some of those questions near the end of the discussion. And as we kick off, as we always like to do, for those of you who are WOW veterans, we're going to start with a poll from our incredible pollster, Romana Bruder-Schwab. So I'm going to hand it to Romana to take us through our first poll. Romana, over to you.
Thanks, Kate, and thanks to everyone for being here today. I'm especially excited to hear from Dara, as I'm sure you all are. But we always like to start with a little poll to just get a feel for where we are, right? And keeping in theme with the session. So you'll see the poll in front of you just now, also on the screen that I'm sharing. And this is really asking you to reflect on your own career. It's asking whether you think that you'll be in the same role in 12 months, in a year's time, right? And our esteemed speaker today, Dara, you'll hear momentarily, has truly had an incredible career journey. She was a veteran of one organization, only to then do a complete 180 and change industries and organizations. And we'll hear more about that from her and how she's navigated it. But for now, we want to hear from all of you and what you think your career journeys and trajectories might be in the next year or so. So that's about 85% of you who have responded to the poll. If you could get your responses in the next 5 seconds before I close out the poll, that would be amazing. And I will be closing out the poll and sharing the results with you all in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I am ending the poll now, and I will share the results with you all. So very interestingly, the majority of us, 41%, have said yes. We do think that we will stay in the same role in the next 12 months, although that is also closely followed by many of us who say no. And I think that really speaks to this time of kind of the great transition where, you know, there is a bit of churn out there, and clearly we're all feeling it. But let's get inspired with Dara's journey today. So I will hand it back over to Kate now. Thank you all for participating in the poll.
Thanks very much, Romana, and thanks to all of you for the poll. Fascinating, fascinating results, without a doubt. And Dara, thank you. Thank you again for joining us. So if you don't mind, I would like to start at the beginning, right at the beginning, because you have had this fascinating career journey. Okay, not right at the beginning, not at birth. That might be a little much. But you know, you finished law school. Or you wait, I'm going to go back one more. You chose law school. You chose a path through a career in law. I'd be really fascinated to know, you know, why a career in law. I think a lot of us get, you know, down the path and maybe it's accidental and sometimes it's really intentional, but it would be really great to hear from you. You know, what set you on this journey?
Yeah, thanks, Kay. First of all, I love in the chat seeing where everybody is from. We are truly connecting globally. It's so wonderful. So hello to everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So in terms of me starting my career, my undergrad was really a business focus. I thought I'd be going in that direction, and my business degree required a business law class. And it was really that professor that started to introduce the students to not only the possibility of being a lawyer in a law firm, but really this combination of business and law and being in-house, a lawyer that would sit side by side with their business peers. And that was really intriguing to me. And through that course, I got to speak to a number of in-house counsel. And that was really why I decided to go to law school, is that I knew going into law school, I wanted to go in-house.
So that's fascinating to me, because I think in 2022, the in-house path is one that is sort of on the menu for people when they're embarking on their law careers. But it was a little while ago that
Yes.
you were in law school. It was
You're kind. Yes.
Well, I was there around the same time, so we're all good. So, but it was, you know, it was quite unusual at the time, I would think, or relatively speaking, quite unusual But you did start in private practice,
I did, and I had a wonderful mentor and partner in the firm, and he and I discussed this idea of going in-house and what type of experience I would need to have. And he was quick to point out that law firms, especially larger law firms like one that I started in, were really set up for that training in terms of working on different types of matters, connecting with attorneys working in different specialty areas, and frankly, learning through their clients the type of legal support that would be needed in-house. And so it was a great starting point for me in my career.
And so you spent just a couple of years doing that, and then
That's
you
right.
made the leap, right? That was always the plan. And your
That's right.
first leap, I think it's fair to say, first leap was, again, then maybe a bit novel in the moment, but online retail, would you describe it as a TMT company to what is now Travelport?
Yes, it was a computer reservation system for the travel industry. What was great about that opportunity, it was a small legal function, and I was hired to be their first business counsel. So they had a general counsel, they had an employment counsel. And so that gave me the opportunity to really figure out how to be that business counsel to a lot of areas of their business, how to partner, how to work with them to support their goals, the company's goals. And so it was a great training ground to be able to step into a role where you got to work with very different aspects of the business.
And you were there for a while, Dara, but I think if one thing I've learned, you can be restless or you're always looking for that next challenge.
Yes.
But you spent some time at Travelport and then moved over to Coca-Cola that we talked about.
I did. So I was at
okay,
Travelport for 8.5 years, and then jumped to the Coca-Cola company.
And now your home base, at least at the time, was
Yes.
Atlanta. So Coca-Cola is
correct.
headquartered in Atlanta.
Yes.
So how did that opportunity come along? Were you looking for it? Did it fall into your lap? And what made you make that first leap?
Yeah. After 8+ years at Travelport, I said it was a small legal team. It grew somewhat while I was there, but still relatively small, under 10 attorneys. And so I was looking for another opportunity that would allow me to grow, continue to learn, to push my skills. And I felt like I had done everything I could at Travelport, given the team that was there. And so a recruiter called about the Coca-Cola company, and seemed like, obviously very well known, very large legal function. But in my mind, what was the great opportunity was to be able to join a large legal function. And what I hoped, and what actually came to be, was lots of opportunity to move within that legal function and get different types of experience.
But this is industry change number one. So it was the legal
Yes.
function, that experience. Were you intimidated by the change of industry, or was it?
I wasn't, and maybe that was ignorance. I don't know. But I wasn't. I figured that I could learn an industry, I could learn a business. What I wanted to continue to develop were the legal skills. And we all know in-house, you become a jack of all trades. And so I really wanted the range of experience, not only in terms of legal skills, but in terms of the type of business aspects you support. So over 17+ years at Coca-Cola, I had numerous different roles. So supporting customer and sales, the retail side, to brand marketing, to digital transformation, to our franchise bottling system, so supply chain, to international, our bottler investment group, to global growth, strategic investments, business development. So just a huge range of areas that I supported, and different leadership teams.
And that, again, that was, well, Coca-Cola was quite a long stint. Lots of opportunity to move around,
That's right.
lots of opportunity to make changes, but eventually 17 years, I think, at Coca-Cola.
Yes. Yes.
That you made, I don't know if this is change number 3 or 4, but another change.
Yeah, I'll
This
say
time
before that
yeah,
change, though, what was great for me was that very varied experience. And some of those were me being asked to take on another role. But frankly, most of those were me raising my hand and saying, here's an area, if you need support, I'm happy to step in or to do that work. And so encourage people, even if it's within the same company, if there's different opportunities, raise your hand for them. Don't be afraid, because you learn so much in taking different areas, different work, even if it's something you've never done before. I just encourage people to take that chance, because the learning you get is incredible. And so really for me, at least on the work side, the hallmark of those 17 years was really the varied experience that I got.
well, I'm gonna throw out, if you don't mind, Dara, one of those buzz phrases that we hear, because you've just counseled people to have a little courage to put their hand up. So talk to me about, and my apologies to our audience if I'm anticipating a question, but we know it's one that comes up a lot. Talk to me a little bit about imposter syndrome. I mean, how did you have those moments of thinking, whether it's Coca-Cola, and I know we've got lots of other opportunities where we could maybe think that imposter syndrome would come in, but what about that specter of, I don't have the qualifications, or I'm not up for the role? Did you face that? And if you did, how did you tackle that own self-management piece?
Yeah, so I think imposter syndrome comes up in different ways. It could be, like you said, industry specific. So jumping to a new industry that you haven't had experience in. It also could come up in terms of the type of legal work that you're asked to do. And I'm going to share with you just how I think about it. I'm not going to profess that it's right or wrong. I just want to share my thoughts, and then hopefully you take something from this discussion and are able to think about your own journey, perhaps in a different way. So for me, I was quick to recognize where I didn't have the experience or the knowledge. And but what I was willing to do was jump in and figure it out. Always willing to learn. I think of myself as a lifelong learner. I really love learning something new, and being able to recognize where you need some support, some guidance, some learning, whether it's a mentor or a colleague to check in with you and help, provide some guidance. I was always willing to do that, to tap people in your network. For me, colleagues in the law firms that support us, to bounce something off. And so, imposter syndrome, I think you have to get comfortable in saying, I don't know everything, but I'm willing to learn it. I'm willing to dive in, and I'll come back to you, with an answer or guidance, or someone, who can assist us in that.
Thanks. Well, thanks for that. And maybe it's a great segue into, so long career at Coca-Cola. Now, I would think, we all get comfortable. We feel pretty good. We know everybody in the team. And I don't know how it came about, so I'm going to ask you to tell us, but along comes Tilray. And for those, we mentioned about Tilray, cannabis company, really cutting edge. Coca-Cola, longstanding established company. You were going to have, a geography change. Tilray is based where I live, headquartered in Canada. You've been working in Atlanta. So, that's a pretty courageous move. So tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
kind of the leap to Tilray.
It's probably one of the things people ask me most about, because it's not a typical career path, and I recognize that. I had 17 years at the Coca-Cola Company, and you've described it perfectly. You get very comfortable, even changing roles within the company. You get comfortable. You know the industry now. You know the business. You know the people. And so it does take some courageousness to jump to a new position, let alone a new industry. And so for me, it was about, I had done a lot of the roles. I still felt like I had, a long enough career in front of me. And as I mentioned, I love learning. And frankly, I felt I was ready, although I led teams at Coca-Cola, I was ready for that GC role, and wanted to reach for that. And so I was interviewing with a number of companies, probably more in line with the Coca-Cola Company. And a recruiter called me about this global cannabis position. And at first, I laughed on the phone and said, I'm not sure why you're calling me, because I just spent 17 years at the Coca-Cola Company, consumer product goods. I knew nothing about cannabis. I'm coming from a very large company, very large legal function. Tilray was a public company, but on high growth. And so I just didn't see how I could add value. And this was a great learning for me. The recruiter said, will you have a conversation with the CEO? I said, of course. And I sat down with the CEO, and he said to me, I don't need someone that knows cannabis. You can learn that. I need someone who knows where we want to go, who understands what great looks like. And he felt like my Coca-Cola experience would bring that. And he said, help us just get there, have that vision for where we need to go. And the more I thought about it, the more exciting that became. Here was an industry that, a nascent industry, literally coming out of a state of prohibition into the light from a global perspective. And this was a global company. And an area where regulations were literally changing week by week, month by month on a global basis. And I thought, for a lifelong learner, this was going to be the challenge for me, learning the industry globally, learning a high growth company, something I hadn't done before. And to me, it was just going to be that exciting opportunity. And so I made the jump, surprised a lot of people, but didn't ever look back or regret. To me, it was just, an opportunity to learn and to put the skills to work.
I'm really intrigued, and we talked a little bit about this before we all jumped on together with our audience.
Yeah.
But you mentioned that you surprised a lot of people. Can you just talk a little bit about that? Because we all live with these expectations, right, that people have of us, and that's
Yeah.
something that sometimes we have to overcome.
Yeah, I think, for everyone in their career, you feel that there are expectations of what people have for you in your career path. You have it in a law firm, unless you have those very transparent conversations, there's an assumption you want to progress to make partner. In a company, that you've been for a long time, there is an assumption you want to stick around for your entire career, and try to continue in that company. And even if you move companies, I think there's an assumption, and I heard it from some recruiters in terms of what industry, you'd be well suited for. And so when I jumped to a global cannabis company, very different than the Coca-Cola Company, people in my network, immediately started reaching out. It was everything from what are you doing or what are you thinking to, Good for you. That's amazing. How did you do that? And everything in between. And so what I'd say to people is, you own your journey and you know yourself. And so, don't take the expectations of others and what they set for you, really, really guide what you think about it and what would be exciting for you and passion for you, and let that be the driving decision.
Thanks for that. Well, I think maybe my next question actually leads us into your, where you are now, because of course you just talked about this fantastic transition to Tilray
Yeah.
and what motivated you, and this, fantastic leader who you're the CEO who you talked about as somebody who you really identified with and you could work with. But, looking back on it now, as you jumped into that role, and maybe this is something you took forward as you jumped into your current role with H&R Block, is there anything you would have done to prepare differently for that leap than what you did, knowing what you know now? Are there different approaches you would take?
Yeah, so you're quickly, especially going into a GC role, you are quickly humbled into acknowledging that you don't know everything, right? As much as people want you to, you don't. And so for me, being authentic, has been kind of something I've believed in throughout my career. And to be able to say, even at the senior leadership level, I don't know that answer, but I'll come back to you, is really important. And whether you call that imposter syndrome or whatever, being able to acknowledge you don't always have all the answers the minute they're asked, but that you're willing to dive in and get that answer. Now, how do you get the answer? Of course, you can research, but the great thing is you have this incredible network, and it's a question whether you've leveraged that network of colleagues from your years of practicing, but you also have a network of law firms that you don't necessarily need to use them for only big matters. You can just bounce off a question off of them. And I'll tell you that one of the things I was not prepared for were some of the governance and board challenges that I had in this global cannabis company. And I reached out to a colleague at Denton's who became, she sat right next to me, kind of helping me think through situations, and being able to talk through those and think through those was incredibly valuable to me. So, what I would say to those embarking either as a GC or a new role is don't be afraid to say that you don't know everything. Use your network, tap them for guidance, both guidance and to bounce off, just talk through issues with you. It's incredibly powerful to be able to do that.
Thanks, Dara. And I don't profess to be an expert, but I've certainly heard not infrequently that, particularly when people first step into a GC role, that board management piece and understanding their role is actually quite a common transition. I won't say sticking point, but a transition learning point. So, it's at least from what I've heard, I think that's a really good company kind of observation. So now we are 2022 H&R Block. You've been there for now 10 months. So transition number, I guess this is fourth industry. Any number of transitions. So just what's that one? This is another, I don't know if we're now 90 degrees or 180 degrees or where we are
from cannabis. I think US taxes is about as 180 degrees as you could get. So I was going to be leaving Tilray. we did a transformational reverse merger with the company, and so I knew I'd be stepping out after the merger would go through, and I would help them with the integration. And so I reached out to my network to say, after a little break, I'd be looking for my next role. And one of the recruiters called about H&R Block, and similar to how a recruiter called about the cannabis, when they called, they said H&R Block, and I thought, gosh, that is not what I expected to come. I had no experience in the financial services or financial products industry. I knew nothing about taxes. And it seemed that, H&R Block was about as 180 from global cannabis as you could get. And so it was an interesting reach out for me. And again, the recruiter said, would you have a conversation with the CEO? And I got on the phone with the CEO, and by now I've learned, I said, why me? What did you see in my background? And it was interesting because he said, I have plenty of people that know taxes and are from this industry. What he really was looking for was someone who had managed through change, who had managed through transformation, something H&R Block is going through, and to bring that experience to bear on the company. And the more we talked, the more excited I became about that opportunity. So on the face, it looks like, my career journey is very unusual. There's some commonalities in terms of my embracing learning, leading through change, transformation. And so really that's the value that I think I bring to a company. And I joined H&R Block, and I have this amazing legal team there that really could teach me the industry and teach me the nuances of the industry. And it's been an incredible experience for these 10 months. I'm so thrilled and privileged to be there.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And you mentioned it a little bit earlier, and I think this is a great sort of segue into a topic that we wanted to talk about, which is about leadership and transformation. And you mentioned that, you really prioritize authenticity.
Yeah.
Maybe you can talk more generally, but also about authentic leadership. What is it that you prioritize in your role as a leader? Now you've been in multiple situations where that's been your role in the organization.
Yeah. I think about early in my career, I remember looking up to leadership, and it seemed that leadership kind of had one definition, a way to look, a way to act. There was a mold, and it wasn't something that I knew I would feel comfortable in. And so from early on managing my first team, I committed to being myself. I know that's a very novel idea, maybe novel back then, but I think of authenticity as just being who you are and bringing that transparency, honesty. I think it inspires trust, builds relationships, builds the culture that you want. So being who you are, bringing your own values, and showing up in a way that's truly authentic, and importantly, giving permission and advocating for others to do the same. That's the piece that's really key. And so, whether you lead a small team or a large team, encouraging people to bring themselves, bring their values, their ideas, really can create this incredible team with diversity of thought, and leading to you to the very best solutions. And I mean that no matter what your title is. So just because I have the chief legal officer title doesn't mean that I'm going to bring the best ideas. If you bring a team together and everyone brings themselves, brings their ideas together as a team, you'll land on the best direction and best solution. So as I think about authentic leadership, I think about it in terms of being myself, but also that permission and advocating for others to do the same.
I really love that permission and advocating for others to do the same, and conveying that to your team. What I'm going to do is I'm going to I know our audience is listening intently because I'm getting some messages in the background saying this is great. Okay. This is a great conversation, but I'm going to pause us for a little commercial break because I'd love to get the audience engaged. Our pollster Romana is going to put up another poll. So audience, this is your time to shine. Romana, can you put up, I'll hand it to you and put up the poll and talk us.
Great. Thanks, Kate. And thanks, Dara, again. Dara has really spoken a lot about inclusive leadership in the last 30 minutes. She was talking about having a great mentor when she was in private practice. And she talked about having this incredible sounding CEO at H&R Block who was really in her corner and really wanting her to join the organization, even though on its surface, she didn't seem to have any experience in the financial services or tax industry, but he saw beyond that. And Dara also talked about the own actions that she takes on a day-to-day to model that inclusive, authentic leadership. So we want to know from you all, what do you think about authentic leadership? Is it something that you find easy to do? Is it maybe a challenge in certain contexts? Is it a diamond in the rough? Is it a rarity to find amongst people, amongst colleagues, amongst teams? And or is it a pleasure when you see it? So about 70% of you have answered this poll thus far. I'm going to leave it again for another 5 seconds just so that we can be sure to get as many responses as possible, because we're really always interested to hear what you think, what you feel, right? So about 80% of you have now voted. You've submitted your responses. I'm going to end this poll and share it with you all. And it seems that the majority of us say that it is a pleasure when we see it, that inclusive, authentic leadership. And that's closely followed by, it's something challenging to find. And it's a challenge in some contexts, maybe to model. And so I think, as we progress in this session today, we can maybe even go a little bit more in depth on those everyday actions that one can take to model that sort of inclusive behavior. I'll stop sharing for now. Thank you all for engaging in this.
Thanks, Romana. And I think that's a fascinating result. What I took from that is we see generally we are yearning for authentic leadership, but it's something that people continue to find difficult, whether they're finding it difficult in their own role as a leader, or maybe they're not seeing it. I'm going to say, throw it back to you, Dara, just for your reflection on those results, and maybe ask people to put in the chat to expand a little bit on how they answered that poll, because I found it absolutely fascinating. What's making it a challenge in the current era? But over to you, Dara, for your reflection.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by the results. I think we're in a time of change, and this has been coming for a while, where you're starting to see leaders really embrace kind of that authentic leadership. But that's only one piece. It's also people feeling comfortable bringing themselves to work, that diversity of thought. And so, I think we're on a journey, and teams are on a journey in terms of recognizing the value and benefit to that diversity of thought. But I'm positive about it in terms of, we're moving in the right direction, and companies are moving in the right direction. So, if anything, we should push ourselves to bring our authentic self to work. I think about the H&R Block CEO, Jeff Jones, when he was speaking to me before I joined. He said to me, when you join, you will be a peer among equals. And so don't let that industry experience, hold you back. Bring your value, bring who you are, bring your curiosity that you've shown throughout your career. Ask all the questions that maybe someone else isn't asking. Challenge us. And so, if we can all, push ourselves to really be even a step more authentic in that way, I think we're really moving in the right direction.
So, I don't know the career stage necessarily of all the folks who are on the call today, but one thing we often hear is with the benefit of experience and longevity, these things can become easier.
Yes.
Individuals become more secure in themselves, more secure in their capabilities. Is there any advice you would give to somebody in their earlier part of their career, maybe where they're a little more tentative about some things that they might want to think about around their own authenticity at work?
Yeah, so I think you need to first of all find a place that you're comfortable. So if it's not the place you're currently at, perhaps that may mean a change sometime in your career. Because I know, Kate, we're going to talk about this whole concept of work-life balance, which I don't use that terminology. I believe I just have one life, and there's many pieces to that life, and the whole balance idea is kind of mythical to me. I don't know anyone that has balance at any moment, every moment in time. But if I think about it as one life, I don't want to be acting in that life. I want to be who I am. I want to be appreciated for that, valued for that, and do the same for others. I think kind of the world is so much more interesting with the diversity that we have. And if you bring that to a team or a law firm or a company, we should be representing the world and the society that we live in, and that society is diverse. And so from a business perspective, I think of diversity as being good for business, because if people bring their authentic self, then we're getting to really good decisions, because people can challenge each other and bring their thought and their direction to that decision making. So I encourage people, even more junior in their career, to ask the questions, bring that diversity of thought to questions, not just assume what someone says is the only way, because I think you add value through that. I really believe that.
Thanks for that. And Dara, as we often say around here, and at risk of oversimplifying it, it's a heck of a lot more fun when you're working in an environment where you have that kind of free-flowing dialogue and opportunity to participate. I just wanted to pick up on a couple of points, and I'm just going to encourage our audience again. If you have questions, maybe I'm doing a brilliant job of asking all of the questions that are coming to mind for you, and Dara's doing an incredible job, which she is, of answering them all. But if you do have questions, please do put them into the chat, and we will do our best to get to them for you. But you talked a little bit about, and maybe this is the relationship of between authentic leadership and transformational change. And I think we'd all agree, it's pretty hard not to agree at the moment, that transformational change is I don't know, our collective everyday all over the world, and in just about every aspect of who we are as residents of the planet Earth at the moment, not just in our work lives, but more broadly in our lives. Yeah. As a leader, how do you approach the challenge, and I'll say the opportunity, that transformational change can bring?
Yeah, I do think it's an opportunity. It's about taking the very best of what's been done before, whether it's a year before, 5 years before, 10 years before, and adapting to changing times. And so I think of it as the transformation never stops. We should be embracing the change, staying curious, rethinking how we work, what we concentrate on, what are those outside kind of environmental changes that are happening that we need to think about as it relates to our work, our business. And transformational leadership is about encouraging, motivating, maybe even inspiring employees to perform in ways that create that meaningful change, to challenge kind of the status quo, look around and think about, you know, do we need to pivot? Are we not considering things that were not there before? And if you encourage teams to do that, to embrace it, to not be scared of change, to reward that thinking, you really create an engaged workforce that suddenly is empowered to innovate. And it's that innovation, I think, that begins to help an organization pivot for future success. So, it's a different way of thinking, and it's hard, especially I think, for us in the legal profession to embrace that type of change. It's not core to our DNA, but it's something that once we get comfortable saying, okay, that worked before, we may need to rethink it. What should we stop doing that we did before? What should we be doing that we've never done before? What do we need to learn that we've never learned before? To me, it's a really exciting way to practice law. And so I think of it as not being afraid of change, but rather embracing it, looking forward, being excited about it. And it doesn't mean anything we've done before is wrong. It's about changing with the times. So that's how I think about transformational leadership and how everyone can embrace that in their current practice.
I think that's terrific. And I really love that comment about, and we use it here all the time. What should we keep doing, but also what should we stop doing?
Absolutely.
It's no, it's actually wiser to abandon ship when it's
Yes.
sinking sometimes than
Yeah.
to try to resurrect it. So I think that's a great piece of advice. I'm going to do one more speed round question between you and me, and then I think we have a
Okay.
question or two from the audience. So
Great.
a last one, very quick. Purpose. I know that's a really important thing for you, finding purpose in your work. You've worked in a lot of different sectors, a lot of different industries.
Yeah.
How do you find purpose in what you're doing in your career, particularly as you've hopped from place to place to place?
Yeah. So I think for each of us, we need to feel purpose in both the work and what we do. I'll say tangential to work. So from a work perspective, I think all of us need to feel that the work that we do every day matters. How does it matter to either the clients we serve, if we're with a law firm, or if we're with a company? How is what we're doing changing something and helping to guide the business, right? And so I always say, especially if you're leading a team, making sure your team understands that the work they do individually, how that rolls up to our company mission, our company objectives, our company strategic plan. Because if they can't see that connection, then we need to talk about that. Either they're focused on the wrong things, we've given them the wrong things, or they haven't made that connection. So from a work perspective, what I talk about in terms of purpose is making sure that you see the connection to the bigger picture for the company, and driving value for the company. Then tangential, what I talk about in terms of purpose is what you're doing either through your work or through your company that gives meaning to you. So for example, when I was with the Coca-Cola company, I was able to start a program that provided opportunities and exposure to underserved communities and teens to think about career paths, to think about college, to think about career paths in business, including a legal path. That provided me, an immense sense of purpose, exposing teens to those opportunities. I also sat on the company's diversity council and led the women's business resource group globally, and that, helping to mentor and provide opportunities and ensure the company provided a pipeline for women in leadership provided immense purpose to that work. And then, going forward, in each career company, I try to find ways to provide opportunities that give me a sense of purpose, but also, again, back to that, encouraging and supporting others in my function to do the same, whether that be through community service or different business resource groups, really advocating for that drives value. I think, again, it leads to more motivated and engaged employees, but frankly, to me, it's what's meaningful in life and drives a lot of value. So purpose has always been very important to me, but also giving that permission and advocating it so that others on my team can feel that sense of purpose as well.
Terrific. I hear that strong theme through your comments. I know,
Yeah.
Ramona, we have a question, I think, from the audience that came to you. So I'm going to hand it over to you, if you don't mind, to ask Dara that question.
Sure. Will do. So Dara, we did get a few audience questions, and I think this
Okay.
one is quite interesting. So I'll just read it in full and then turn over to you.
Okay.
So this individual says, "Thank you, Dara, for sharing your experiences and lessons learned in so much detail. Could you please share your views on taking up a job not related to law when someone is moving from one country to another?" And this person then goes into a bit more detail and saying they recently moved from New Delhi from India to Toronto, and they're in the process of building a career in law in a completely new jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
And they feel that if they might be constrained to take up a job not related to the law to make ends meet, would it have any impact on their long-term career trajectory? And what do you think about that?
Yeah. So I would say no. And the reason I say no is to me, it's about what you learn along the way and how you speak about those learnings. So, I think in any job, at Coca-Cola, one of the areas I supported was business development and strategic planning. Um, and there wasn't a lot of legal work, honestly, to do in supporting those areas. But being a part of that team and learning that skill set has provided me great experience that I could leverage as my career has gone on and as I've taken more senior roles. And now sitting in a C-suite, that strategy piece is so important. And it's not legal specific, it's a senior leader value. So I would advocate for thinking about any work that you do, uh, what you learn from it, the skills that you learn either through that job or learning from others, and then being able to talk about it as to how that makes you stand apart from other candidates. And so talking about, for example, risk taking or strategy planning for me, I think has set me apart because those are things that you don't automatically see in a legal profession or job trajectory. So I believe in taking whatever jobs or roles that you have and being able to pull out those skill sets, those experiences that you have that maybe set you apart from others.
Thanks, Dara. I think that's a great response. And I have to say, quite uplifting too. Makes us all feel better. We can maybe have our hands in different cookie jars and try out new things.
Absolutely.
I realize that we're coming up to time here. So I think, I don't think we have any more time for specific questions, but if you
Okay.
do have some, I do recommend you can, the audience, you can ping me, you can ping Kate, and we can try to get those questions over to you after the session.
And I'm happy if anyone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn or continue a conversation. Let me just put that out there. Always happy to do that.
That's awesome. Thank you. That's authentic, inclusive leadership at work right there, folks.
Thank you.
So I'll just put up our fourth poll of the day, or excuse me, our third poll of the day. And I think this kind of fits in nicely with everything that Dara was saying today, really talking about her experiences and her career trajectory, and also answering that great question from one of our audience members just now. So the question's asking, how are you feeling about the trajectory for women specifically in in-house roles? And, I think this question definitely has a bit of inclusion, diversity, and equity flavor. Kate and I, we work in the Global Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity team. So we always like to look at things through a lens of that, right? So we'd love to get your read on this. About 70% of you have responded. I'll give it another 5 seconds as per usual, and then we can close it out. I know I'm going a little faster than usual, but I do want us to have time to just wrap up the session and get some of your ideas on what we might do in the future for future sessions. So I'll end the poll just now and share the results with you all. And this is great. I think the majority of us feel positively about the trajectory for women in in-house roles, and we're hopeful about what the future might hold. A small minority of us, but still there, are maybe less positive. And I would say that that's, not wrong. I think there's a lot still left to do around the world in this space. So I'll stop sharing that poll just now, and I'll turn it back over to Kate for a few parting words.
Terrific. Thank you, Ramona. Thank you. I would
Kate,
just like to
can
say,
Can I do
yes,
one
please.
shout out? I saw a
Of
couple
course.
of men here in the session, and I just want to do a shout out to you. Thank you for joining and being a supporter. So great to see you on it.
Thanks for that, Dara. And we love allies, and we know that all the amazing things that Dara shared will benefit anyone in their career, regardless of how they gender identify. So thank you very, very much, everyone, for being here. And thank you, Dara. Thank you for the terrific conversation. The time has flown. I suspected it would, but it really has flown, and I know that our audience has enjoyed it. Some incredible nuggets. Thank you for your offer of linking in. I'm sure you'll get many, many, many invitations after this session. So our huge gratitude. I'm going to quickly ask Ramona to put up our very, very last poll of the session, which we ask all of our attendees in our client experience session. So Ramona, over to you, and then we'll try to let everybody go in just a minute or two.
Great, thanks. So yes, like Kate said, the team behind the client experience program, all of us, we love to get your views on what we might do in the future for similar sessions. So you should be seeing this poll up on your screen, and we're really wanting to know what you think might be beneficial to you to learn about in future sessions. And we've jotted down a few topics or themes that we think might be useful. If none of those necessarily resonate, click other and then pop in the chat what theme or topic you would like to focus on in future sessions. So I know there's a lot of text up on your screen, but some of the themes and topics that we've been looking at and maybe we would want to do for future sessions is around team management, retention, in this era of the great transition, in this era of the war for talent. Maybe there's some concerns about retention, managing your team. Similarly, cyber risk, maybe it's this increasing risk of cyber crimes, big data breaches, and the issue around your organization's important cybersecurity policies that you're particularly concerned about. ESG, that seems to be the corporate buzzword these days. Maybe that's front of mind for you. Similarly, how you might respond to crises, such as those big data breaches or similar things, or indeed pending litigation, as well as this kind of looming recession that we're all facing. And maybe it's really crunching your budget, unfortunately. So that's about 90% of you who have responded. Thank you so much. I'll end the poll and just share quickly with you the results. We'll be sure to take note of these, and then in future sessions, really try to shape the sessions based on what you have all said today. Thank you all so much. Any final words, Dara or Kate?
Just want to say thank you to everyone for joining, and again, reach out if we want to continue any discussion and at least be connected.
And thanks, Dara. And I don't know, Neve, if you want to pop up, or Ramona, pop up that final slide, just so our crew here today can see what's upcoming in our client experience. Thank you for bearing with us. We try not to be over time. Occasionally we blow it. We have by a couple of minutes, but the conversation has been so terrific. So thank you for bearing with us. You can find out more information from our website, dentons.com client experience, or you can always email us at cxprogram@dentons.com to find out more. So again, thank you for bearing with us as we ran slightly over. Thank you so much, Dara, for the incredible conversation. And thanks to you, our audience, for engaging with us today. We'll see you all soon. Bye for now.